folks, welcome to Hidden Magic Tarot. I'm Nancy, and this video is the tag that's been going around, Good Mood decks. This was started by Maureen at Waves of Your Soul, and I've been having so much fun watching other people's videos because honestly, watching their good mood decks is putting me in a good mood. The spirit of this tag is to use decks that you have gotten in 2026 because it sounds like Maureen does this every year. I do not have 10 Good Mood decks from 2026, and so most of these are 2026, but quite a few are from other years. I felt like doing 10 was more important than sticking with the 2026. So let's get started. My first Good Mood deck is the Flower Child Tarot. This deck just makes me so happy. There is something about the colors that just brings me a lot of joy. And then seeing these figures, like there's fairies, there's frogs throughout, and there's something really just very sweet about it, but it's like not too cutesy. I don't really know how to describe that. It also matches the RWS system really well, so I think this is an easy deck to read with. There's no renamings in the suits or the majors or the courts. The imagery is very similar to Pixie's original art in the Rider-Waite-Smith. Little changes here, right? Instead of sphinxes, we have cats. But for the most part, the imagery is so close that I just think this would be a very easy deck for anyone to pick up, which maybe is part of what makes it a good mood deck for me as well, is that I don't really have to struggle to read with it. I love the colors most of all. I have to say there's something really wonderful about the color choices in this deck, and I'm just in love with it. I love reading with it. I love pulling it out. It is a rose petal finish, but it's not terrible. I took care of it pretty easily. I have a system where I freeze my decks and then I like smack them, like when you're like trying to kill a bug. And this one loosened up that finish really well, and it shuffles great. I don't have any trouble with it all. Just love this one. Makes me happy just to look at it. And again, that's the Flower Child Tarot. This is the Echo Tarot, and I am just in love with it. This is the blueberry edition of the deck. 2026 has turned out to be the year of alternate representation of art for me. I have really been drawn to decks that are giving me totally different views of the cards. That may sound funny considering I just showed you a deck that is pretty close to being an RWS clone, but this deck here, the Echo, and a couple of my other decks lately are just really kind of pushing me. They're showing me new interpretations of the cards. These artists are taking the meanings and approaching them in a new way. So there's still the meanings that I recognize. I'm not learning a new system, but they're showing me sort of different versions of it, different flavors of that meaning, different connotations of that meaning. And just having these different representations is really expanding my mind as I do my readings. It's really helping me pay more attention to the art instead of the title on the card. And I think that's been a really welcome change for me, to dive a little bit more into the art and let the interpretation come a little bit more from the art than from the titles. I still do use the titles, of course. I am a reader who relies on her core meanings, her expected meanings. I'm not just fully intuitive, but these art representations are also based on those meanings. It's just they give me a little, like a slightly different version, and I just can't get enough of it. It started with pips, and it has moved into full-on, the entire deck looks different than you'd expect. And I really like the representation in this deck. I think the artist did a tremendously good job putting this deck together. I like the small size, easy to shuffle. Honestly, I just adore it. And again, that is the Echo Tarot. I'll get the two vintage decks out of the way. These two give me so much joy. I started 2026 on a real vintage kick. I had never bought a vintage deck before. Gosh, I don't think I'd even ever bought a used deck before, but I got really into trying to find vintage decks, and these are two of the ones I got, and I just adore them. Let's start with the Tarot Madoni. Now, I keep the pips in the box here because I have stopped reading with the pips. And I keep the quarts and the majors in this wrap, and I still read with those. So I stopped reading with the pips just because they were not giving me, much information. And so when I was reading, I would pull a pip and I would just kind of sit and stare at it. I think just because it's the single image, it's basically just the suit. Like I don't even have 7 cups to go on, and like the way the artist might have arranged those cups could give you information. I don't know. I just didn't like reading with them. But I do a lot of readings with just my quarts and just my majors. And so I pulled the pips out and I've been doing my readings with the cards that I really do love, and which are technically the good mood portion of this deck, I guess. I am so taken with this art. I've actually been watching to try to get some of the playing cards that this artist made. But they all are coming from Europe, and I do not live in Europe, so I'm struggling to find some that I could get. I am completely enchanted by this art. It's, how to describe, it's like little lines here, or like repeated shapes over and over and over. You can probably see it in his hair a little bit better, but it's just such a cool deck. I'm sad to say I'm just noticing that I've got a scratch on this one. I don't know if I did that or if it came that way. It came in pretty good shape, actually, for a deck as old as it is. But I really, really like this style of art. And gosh, look at her. Just the look on her face, and then this hair, this just abundant hair. It's just delightful. Oh gosh, the reflection of the moon in this one. I love the colors in this. I like the shape of the cards. This one, I got it when I saw him. Oh, this is how I decided to get this deck. When I saw him, I had to have it. Look at him. Look at his giant cloak and his tiny little head. Oh, I love him. The colors are amazing. And I think I was saying, I even just really like the shape of the cards. It's really fun to use. And I really enjoy just this artist's take on these cards. They're all the symbols that you would expect, right? Like it's not that far off from the historical deck. This is a Marseille deck. As you can see, Justice is at 8, and it is a pip deck, though it's not, Marseille style pips. It's still pips. I just find this deck really fun to use. Look at her. Look at the look on her face. And everything's just sort of out of proportion. Look at her teeny tiny hands and her big arms. I just can't get enough of it. As you can see, I'm just delighted by this deck. I have a lot of fun using it, and it was one of my very first vintage decks. Maybe it was my first vintage deck, actually, and I was really excited to have it and to have the experience of reading with something that, somebody else had loved. It came with like a bend in it and everything. Like it had been, I think, dearly loved, and it's just really nice to be the new steward of this deck. Here, I'm nearly through. I'll just show you the rest of them. Yeah, oh, look at that star. Holy cow. Oh, I just love it so much. And that is the Tarot Madoni. The other vintage deck in this list is the Tarot Balbi. This is a deck that was published in Spain in 1978. It first came out in 1976. This is a 1978 version. And I got it because Spain means a lot to me. I did a study abroad there. I was a Spanish teacher for many years. I met my husband there. So I wanted a Spanish deck, and it was made in the decade when I was born, and so it just felt like I had to have it. So I kept an eye out for the Tarot Balbi for a long time, and I found one that had never been used. It was still in the cellophane, and I jumped right on it. And that was a just really special experience. As much as I find the Tarot Madoni to be special because I'm now the steward of this deck that had been pre-loved, it was just as special to get this, nearly 50-year-old deck and be the first person to shuffle it and to do a reading with it. This is a deck based on the Eudes Picard system, and I have not studied it. So I do look forward to studying it someday and learning more about it, but I just read this deck with the like the numerology and the suits and the keywords that I would read pretty much any other deck. And I just overlay that, on this one. But I love the colors. I love the art. I don't know, maybe it's the boldness of the colors. It just makes me feel, it just makes me feel really happy when I take it out and look at it, when I read with it. Really, really enjoy using this deck. There's something kind of wild and wonderful about the pips and all these, symbols everywhere. The way they're arranged is different than most of my other decks. And I think it's really fun. And, it's even in the majors and the courts, these are, of course, poses and symbols that I recognize, but they're laid out just differently enough that it gives me that great feeling of my mind being expanded a bit. They're what you'd see in the Marseille, sort of, and I really like that. I'll just show you a couple more. Love the colors. Love how it's laid out. Beautiful deck. And again, that is Tarot Balbi. This is the Rainbow Tarot, and is it possible that this is the best mood deck? I honestly think it's the colors in this deck that make me so happy, that give me that good mood feeling. I love how each card is essentially like its own thing. I'm just trying to kind of show you a couple more in comparison. Like here, these are such different sets of colors, and I really like that. And again, very easy to read with because it follows the general symbols and layouts that you would see on the Rider-Waite-Smith. So very easy to read with. I think if you're accustomed to that system, you'd have no trouble picking this one up. It's just coming at it with a very distinctive art style. I love all the polka dots. I love all the leg hair. The colors are great. This is just a really fun deck and fun to read with. I get great readings from it. And I think just this sort of riot of colors always makes me really happy when I see it. Really fun to work with. Wow, look at that. I love that card with the skeletons. It's so great. And it's just like these little changes, I think, that just really, they just hit. Just love them. But as you can see, this is a deck that you wouldn't have trouble interpreting these cards if you're used to reading Rider-Waite-Smith. It follows closely enough, even though it gives us, a few different, interpretations or slightly different things. Look at the socks. I just love it. The fashion in this deck is amazing. And if you follow the creator online, they show tons of their outfits. I think they're also a fashion designer. And so you get a little insight into that. Oh, look at the two different socks. Oh, I just love it. Such a great deck. And again, that is the Rainbow Tarot. If you've been around my channel in the last couple months, you probably know that I'm obsessed with Tarot de Luz. This is a deck I put off getting for a really long time, actually. Starting out strong with my favorite card in the deck. Look at him! I love it. I put it off because the interpretation, like the artistic interpretation, the representation of the cards is so different. And I was not ready to read decks like that. And now I've just become really obsessed with them. I also remember thinking that the art here was very similar to another deck I have and love. And so to a certain degree, I shouldn't say that the art is similar. I think the mood, the feel is somewhat similar. And so I was always like, well, I think it'll be hard to read with, and I've got this other deck, so I just pass it up. But I kept returning to it. And this far into my tarot reading and my tarot collecting, I should know better when I keep coming back to a deck and it keeps sort of winking at me. That means I should get it. Some of my favorite decks, that's what happened. I passed them up over and over, made excuses why I didn't want to get them, and then it turned out they were like amazing, amazing decks that I use all the time. And this is another one of them, I guess. I'm really in love with this deck. I like the colors. I like the art style. I like the challenge of getting the title and then having to find meaning in the art. That is just really suiting me lately. I really enjoy reading in that way. And I like what this art has to offer. It's really fun. It's got, oh, it's just, there's so much there. And, you know, I think it being a Fournier deck, so it's a smaller size, doesn't hurt. I find these decks easy to use. If I have to fight a deck to shuffle it or to like fan it out, that's how I draw my cards, that's going to take it out of the good mood list, I'm going to be honest. If the cardstock is a problem and I have a hard time using it, it's not going to be a good mood deck anymore. So these smaller Fournier decks, this nice cardstock, very shuffleable. I like a riffle shuffle. They fit really nicely in my hand. Yeah, this is a great deck. Really love it. And again, that is Tarot de Luz. Let's do the other Fournier deck in this list. This is Tarot de Carlotides. This is one of the first decks I bought when I came back to tarot. I had read when I was in college in the 1990s, and I only had one deck. I just had the Plaidbeck RWS and was never particularly serious about it, though I really loved it. And then after graduating and I was living on my own for a while, I didn't have anybody to read for, and I just sort of stopped. And then came back to tarot, of course, during lockdown times, as so many of us did. We reached for those kind of comforting or therapeutic things, and tarot just called me back to it. And this was one of the first decks I bought when I realized that artists were making like new decks. I honestly had no idea that new decks were being made. That is how far outside of the tarot world I was. And so when I came back to tarot, of course, I replaced my Plaidbacks because I cannot find my original deck. Just makes me so sad. But I found this one and I just adore it. I love the like folklore in it. I love the nods to pop culture. I love how kind of delicate the art is. It's really very special deck for me. I find it to be a good reader. And even when I was kind of newly back, these like different representations didn't cause me any trouble. I think I've found more layers as I've gone. The longer I've read with it, I've found newer meanings. But like, here's an example. In the original RWS, this is not what it looks like. But I guess I haven't had any trouble like with this new representation. This was probably the first deck I bought that showed alternate representations of things. And then for a while there, I kind of fell off that. Oh, look how beautiful that is. This gorgeous bouquet for the Ace of Wands. For a while there, I kind of went back into getting more RWS, just different artistic styles. But I think as I have collected over the years, I'm much more drawn to decks that offer something new. I've got enough clones at this point that for the most part, I'm buying only decks that really offer something new, like a new perspective, new art, a new way to interpret the cards. I love the system. I'm really not interested in like learning a whole new version of tarot, a whole new tarot system. But if it's closely represented or most of the cards, then I feel like, I don't know, I just have enough clones and I'm really, really interested in cards that offer me something else. The longer I look at this, just going through the cards, I think when I first got the deck, I didn't take the art into consideration. I was just looking at the titles and reading that way, but the art makes me so happy. But now when I read it, I'm taking the art into consideration as part of the interpretation as well. So it's a deck that grew with me, I guess. And I have really, really enjoyed using it. And again, that is Tarot de Carlotides. This is one of my newest decks. This is the Pip Speak Tarot, and it is making me so happy. I picked up this deck because I went out to buy the Playful Heart. It's back in print, and I had been thinking about it off and on over the years and decided to go order the Playful Heart. Is decided the right word? I was peer pressured, encouraged, influenced. You know who you are. But I'm really glad I got the Playful Heart. And when I was there, I thought, well, I might as well get the Pip Speak. It's very cute. I'm really interested in getting better at Pip decks. And so might as well get it since I'm there anyway. But I wasn't expecting it to be quite so enchanted by it. The colors are amazing. The way the colors are in the figures, her art is really amazing. The pips, I am so taken with the pips in this deck. It has been so much fun to read with this deck, and the cardstock is amazing. What a shuffle. And so everything about it, like, I'm starting to realize maybe it's the colors that make a good mood deck for me, because all of them, I've wanted to comment on the colors. But I do think that this has given me an opportunity to read, like this like modern version, this brighter colors. I'm much more drawn to practicing on a Pip deck because it looks like this. And it's been really, really fun to read with, just really enjoyable. And I still need to improve on the Pip decks. I'm still, learning a lot more about Marseille style readings and how cards are interpreted. I had already adopted quite a lot of Marseille techniques into my reading, even though I'm primarily a Rider-Waite-Smith reader. I'd learned a lot of techniques, so it's not, too outside my wheelhouse. But I have also, I don't know, I still kind of apply my RWS keywords in a way to these readings, but I'm getting more and more comfortable seeing this as its own thing, these pips, like interpreting them on their own instead of like imagining the RWS picture in my mind, which is what I did for a long time. I've also got the Spanish tarot. I've got the Vaqueta. Those might be my only pips. I've got like Pagan Otherworlds. And so I do have other decks, but there's something about this one and the way the pips are organized and the bright colors, they seem so full of life to me that I'm finding them easier to read with and to see them as their own thing instead of overlaying another system on top of them. That is the Pip Speak Tarot. If you have spent even 1 minute on my channel, you know that the Fifth Spirit is one of my all-time favorite decks, and so of course it's in the Good Mood Decks video. This is another deck that I kept seeing and passing up and explaining away and deciding I didn't want it, and then it just kept nagging at me. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and then when I finally decided to get it, I fell in love straight away. And it's only gotten more and more important to me in my practice. This deck, especially the pips, really have opened up my ability to interpret in multiple contexts. The way these pips are drawn, the perspective they have, the new way of looking at them, the fact that there's no people in them at all, it gives me such brain delight. I know. Once upon a time, I could not think of the right way to say that something made me happy, and I said it gave me brain delight. And this deck truly, this gives me brain delight. It's somehow different than making me happy. It just delights me. It tickles my thinking when I come across the pips in this deck and I see how Charlie Claire drew them and interpreted them, presented them to us. Some of them are still a mystery to me. I gotta be honest, this one I'm still trying to unlock. But most of them I've really been able to unlock, and it has made it so I can read more decks because I've figured out how to read this one. Because I was able to move beyond needing people and the typical symbols in the pips, it helped me to open up to many other types of decks. I also, of course, love the diversity. I love the modern interpretation. This drives me crazy. I've mentioned this before on my mass market collection, and somebody actually shared a really cute interpretation of it. But it says peas, and these are not peas. Anyway, thank you to the person who commented, because what they thought was this is a card about kind of accepting and watching and seeing what's coming. And maybe you thought you planted peas and you even labeled it peas, and then you waited for peas but it's not peas. And what are you going to do about that? How are you going to handle it? So the modern interpretations are great and the art is beautiful. I find this to be a great view of the world I live in. I love that it includes objects. I'm an extremely connected to objects person. Any inanimate object it just feels like it has an energy and a soul to me. And so having that represented in this deck is amazing. Plus the people represented in this deck look like my world. There's old, there's young, there's large, there's small, there's trans folks, there's women, there's men, disability, ability, different style. I love it. Just a great deck. Love it, love it, love it. And that is the Fifth Spirit. And my last good mood deck is the unofficial Shitty Tarot. This is my only fandom deck, and I have to admit, I don't actually read with it very much, but I take it out sometimes just to look at it. It makes me smile, it makes me laugh, it reminds me of a show that meant a lot to me. I've watched it a few times now, and I love talking to people about this show. And this deck just really is so cleverly done. It's more brain delight, I tell you. And I don't know, it just puts me in a good mood to see it. I probably have only done maybe 5 readings with it in the years I've had it, but it is such a clever deck. It is so wonderfully done, and I have so much fun just taking it out. A good friend of mine is just starting to watch the show, and they're also into Schitt's Creek, and I cannot wait to take this over and do readings with it for them. It's just really fun to go through it and see how these moments, like how they chose that scene to represent that card. It's a really fun, come on. It's amazingly done. A beautiful deck, really happy to have it, and it certainly does put me in a good mood when I use it. And that is the unofficial Shitty Tarot. And those are all of my good mood decks. Thanks to Maureen for this tag. I'm having so much fun with it. Like if you liked the video, subscribe for more content, and thanks for stopping by.